Hello, today our learning objective is to say I can prove triangle parts are congruent using congruence conjectures, and we'll learn about this thing called Cpctc. Now by the end we'll be able to make a congruent statement and then state all the congruence conjectures or congruence that means. But first we have to look at the word congruent. What does it mean if two triangles are congruent? We know if two angles are congruent, they're the same size. If two sides lengths are congruent, they're the same size. What about two triangles? Well, if I take these two triangles, even if they're not lined up, they can be congruent. Uh, and A will have to match up with, say, X. And let's say B is going to be congruent to Y. And C is going to be congruent to Z. Now also, in this situation, all the side lengths have to be congruent. So these two are congruent, those two are congruent, and these two are congruent. So by saying that these are congruent, we're saying that all of those parts are congruent. So I would write triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. This one statement is stating all 6 things here are going to be congruent. 3 angles and 3 side lengths. So when we say that 2 triangles are congruent, the order is very important. A, B, C. Now, what angle in this other triangle matches up with angle A? Hopefully you're saying angle L. B is going to match up with angle M, and C is going to match up with angle N. LMN is the correct answer. Now here we're going to write the congruent statement. We start out the same way, triangle ABC. And what matches up with A? E. So we'll start with triangle E. What matches up with C? Well, that's 1 dash. That's over here. F. And then D just kind of comes along for the ride. Because B match. Ooh. A matches up with E. C matches up with F. That's a mistake on my part. C matches up with F. So B is going to match up with D. So it's ED. And then C matches up with F. It'll be EDF. I made a mistake. Hopefully you caught it. If not, hopefully I didn't mess you up. These just have to match up. All right. Now Cpctc is something that you'll have to memorize. It's corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Now, once we know what that stands for, now we have to figure out what exactly it means. Now, when we say Cpctc, when triangle ABC is equal or congruent to triangle LMN, we're saying that A and L are congruent. That's a part of the triangle. So corresponding parts, A and L, of congruent triangles are congruent. So A and L have to be congruent. Also, B and M have to be congruent. And C and N have to be congruent. Also, AB, those are the first 2 letters. That's going to match up with LM, because those are the first 2 letters. BC and MN are the last 2 letters, so they have to be congruent. Also, AC is the first and last. LN is the first and last, so those have to be congruent. So this one statement, from knowing this one thing, there are 6 different congruencies that come out of it. Now in this case, we know cat and dog are congruent. So ACT has to be congruent to ODG. CAT is congruent to DOG. CTA is congruent to DGO. And we could also prove that the sides are congruent to CA and DO, AT and OG, and DG and CT. All right, hopefully you're getting the hang of this. Now, if we have these two things being congruent, what's congruent to DG? Well, that's the first and last. So this should be RF. What's congruent to UF? That's the last two letters. So we look over here to the last two letters. That would be OG. If you look at what's congruent to angle O, that's in the middle. So here we'd have to say angle U. What's congruent to the angle DGO? GDO. GDO, that'd be FRU. Angle FRU. So state every congruence using Cpctc, and there should be 6 statements. Well, first, bug is the same as ANT. Bug will be congruent to ant. So to state every congruence, we would say angle B is congruent to angle A. Angle G is congruent to angle T. And angle U is congruent to angle N. Also, BU are the first two letters, just like AN over here. UG will be congruent to NT. And then first and last, BG is congruent to AT. All right, so from this one statement, we can figure out those 6 things. Now, here it says make a congruent statement and then state every congruence that implies. Here we'd say ABT is congruent to FLE. So if they ever say a congruent statement, that's what's written in red. All the things that it implies will be angle A and F being congruent. B and L. I should make some triangles here. Angle T and E. Now, first two letters are AB, so AB is going to match up with FL. BT is going to match up with the last two letters, are LE. And AT is going to match up with FE. And those are our 6 things. Now, hopefully, you understand this enough to be able to do the homework.